I'm Erica Lukes, host of UFO Classified. For me, life isn't simply black and white. Life is full of many unknowns. It is my goal to travel the world and to work with the world's leading experts in the hopes of making groundbreaking discoveries. Join me on UFO Classified Friday nights at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on KCOR.
Turn left and then down the river.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome to UFO Classified and Happy New Year. I am back and I have missed all of my people. I had a wonderful time in Germany and saw lots of castles and ate a lot of sausage, which I'm happy to report I don't have to eat again till the next time I go back. That was a good thing, but I had a wonderful time. We did talk UFOs a little bit, which was interesting to just hear different ideas in different cultures about UFOs and all of that, but I missed you. I tried to tune out and not look into or think about UFOs, but stuff's got a hold on me, so I did, and I spent a lot of time talking to my now husband, Chris Marks, who I met through UFO Classified, and who has done, as you all know that listen to me faithfully, a series of shows that we have been working on with regard to Skinwalker Ranch. We spent a great deal of time going over his recollections of things that happened and multiple things. We've also come back into town and I have acquired much, much more information about Skinwalker Ranch, about some of the activities that were taking place, and much more. You rest assured, 2020 is going to be a year for the memory books. A lot of lies are going to be exposed, a lot of really bad behavior at the hands of people that we hold in high regard in the UFO community. That will be exposed. Testing on military veterans, that will be exposed. So this should be good. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the second hour, which I'm encouraging all of you who are listening to call in. I would love that. I want to hear some of your thoughts about the breaking news that is coming forth about Skinwalker Ranch and the fact that they in all likelihood were just testing weapons and there might not have been too much that was paranormal going on there. So we'll have open call lines. The second hour, I am looking forward, though, right now to Ken Dudley, who's coming on the show tonight. I met him in Texas at a conference. I've been communicating with him for some time. He is a great guy. He had a sighting in 1973 that is really important. That took place in Utah. As you know, I live in Utah, so that's close to my heart. So I want to just welcome Ken to the show. Thanks for being here. How are you?
Thanks. How you doing tonight?
You know what? I am fabulous. I'm newly married. I'm just fresh from Germany. I'm just having
I wanted to
a good
congratulate
life.
you on that.
Thank
you told me you just got married, so that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say it's been an interesting love story and journey because we met because of Skinwalker Ranch, and I think both of us truly feel that there was something greater that brought us together, and we look forward to exposing the truth about what went on there. But thank you. What's going on in your world?
Erica, you know about Hero Paranormal, don't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're supposedly right on the ranch edge. And so those would be some people that, you might go talk to. They might know something over there at Hero Paranormal about the Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, I'm thinking that at this point I might know a little bit more. I've been privy to some information and things, and so it definitely is. We'll see how that goes. But the whole ranch thing is an interesting story. It's in my opinion, it has been completely manipulated and fabricated, a lot of it, just so they could get away with weapons testing.
Yeah, there's something going on up there, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And so it's all a big mystery. And because you've been interested in this subject for a long, long time, that there's so many pitfalls that we go through when we're just trying to get to the truth. And thanks to,
Right.
our government and contractors and different people, the truth has been, it's just this smoke and mirrors, and we're going to lead you down one rabbit hole when the truth is the opposite direction. It's really makes it difficult.
Well, if I can make a comparison, excuse me, I'm a little congested. We're 70-something degrees down here in Houston right now. It's really nice weather. We're fixing to get some bad weather here tonight, though. I think there's a front coming through. But anyway, the whole thing about the Utah thing, I did a lot of research into the Utah stuff through the University of Utah Library. And when I first started my investigation into the stuff that was going on up there in Utah, and there's just hundreds. There's an old newspaper there put on by the Mormons. I think they're I don't know if they were in charge of it or what it was, but they put out a lot of articles back in the 30s and 40s and 50s about UFO sightings up in Utah, and there's just tons of newspaper reports of stuff up there. So apparently it's been going on up there in Utah for just forever. It's not something that just happened, I don't think.
There has been activity for a long, long time, and that's what makes it so difficult, because that there are genuine sightings. There's something that is genuine that is going on. But then, unfortunately, you have people that use it as a cover, or use it to attract spies, or do A, B, C, and D, and the whole truth of the matter gets lost in the fray.
Yeah, well, it's like our government right now. Everything in Washington. I don't know if you ever watched the Intelligence Committee on TV.
No.
The Democrats and Republicans on the Intelligence Committee on TV, or whatever that is. But it's in total disarray. Nobody knows what's going on. It's pretty bad up in Washington. They really have no idea, I don't think, of what everybody else is doing, really.
No, it's an interesting time we're living in, that's for sure. But let's talk about your background, your military background. Give us a little information.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't have a military background. I need to make that perfectly clear. Okay? What I do is I work with military people and with intelligence people and with police officers and with NASA personnel that have had experiences in UFOs, and they get to tell me, their story and where they were at and what was going on with them and all this. And so that's my focus, is military intelligence, because I was at, even though I never had any training in military intelligence, never went to school. Now, I did when I was in college. I was in ROTC, and I wanted to be, go off the NOM as a lieutenant and all this stuff, and had a dream to be a CIA agent and all this stuff. But realistically, I didn't train in any of that stuff. Although it's always been a passion and kind of a side hobby of mine, especially the last 10 years. But anyway, so I work with these people. I get their reports. And about Utah, once I found out that something was really going on up there at the Green River base, which is the northern part of the White Sands Missile Range, which was operated by the military, not NASA, didn't have any personnel there. It was mainly like the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office, and they had all the top radar and everything. Of course, that's where we were experimenting, shooting off our interballistic missiles from there to the southern part of the range down there in Alamogordo, New Mexico. And apparently, there was an ongoing incursion by unidentified flying objects up to this base. And it wasn't just a one-time event. It was on and on and on and on. And I think they had to close the base down because it was a national security issue, and they didn't know what to do, and But the thing is that was in the 70s. That was in 73, 74. There was a lot going on. There was the Vietnam War, Watergate, and then you had the war in the Middle East. And I think that was the key factor, was the war in the Middle East, because it paralleled in time the exact UFO wave and incursion into that base. And so to me, having my sighting at that exact time, and then what's really great about it is I actually tracked down Ken Storch. You can Google, I think, Ken Storch. He's a Facebook friend of mine. He was at Office Air Force Base, SAC Command in Omaha, Nebraska, exactly at the same time I had my sighting over there in Utah, Utah Launch Complex. And there was some kind of a UFO thing that was going on, alert or something. And so you'd have to talk to Ken Storch and get his side of the story, exactly what went down at SAC Command, exactly at the same time I was over at the Utah Launch Complex. But what's great about it is you start meeting people that had the same, something going on with UFOs exactly at the same time, same place. Or maybe not the same place, but exactly at the same time, same day.
Interesting. So I have to ask you, did you have any sightings as a child or any paranormal experiences?
No, none. And I haven't had anything since then. And I was with my girlfriend. She's still a Facebook friend. And we were just traveling home from the West Coast in her car. And back then I didn't know anything about UFOs or anything. I didn't expect anything except, maybe some deer to jump out, and that's what happened. But no, we just got out and stood in the road. It was like you were just like almost frozen. I was scared. There's no question about it. All the hair on my body was standing up and tingling. It's like I was feeling some sort of electrical charge. And I think it was either because I was so scared or I was so close to the ship, I was taking some sort of electrical charge off the ship. Close enough. But it was scary. And but we got back in her car after it took off, and we drove to Denver, which is, I think, about 5 hours from Green River. And I was driving, and we didn't hardly talk about it. I just asked her, I said, "Did you see that?" And she said, "Yes." And that was it. We were kind of almost in a state of shock. That's the way I feel about the whole situation, from the time we saw the ship almost to the time we got to Denver.
And so, would there be any chance that this would have been something that the military was experimenting with?
I don't think so, because as I investigated and went into the military area of this whole thing of UFOs and intelligence and all this type of thing, focusing on that because I was at a military base, and my interest is into the military part of the whole thing. We got the UFO New Press Conference in 2010 in Washington at the Press Club, and 6 officers got up there. One of them was Officer Jerome C. Nelson, who was one of the commanders at Silo 9, I think, at Roswell Army Air Base, back when they had nuclear missiles based there. And he said testified right before the press, said that in the winter of 63 and 64, which is exactly the same winter JFK is assassinated in Dallas, just a few weeks from when this happened, his base during that time period had 6 to 10 incursions, UFO incursions. Now, this is what gets me. The military, when you talk to them about this stuff, they said, yeah, we had an incursion. And, I'm not quite clear how we stand on incursions. But under most normal circumstances, if it was a MiG fighter, or enemy missile, or some crazy guy in an airplane, terrorist, or whatever, they probably wouldn't get very far. They'd probably get shot down. But because these ships keep doing these incursions, the military likes to call them incursions. So I don't know. It's a pretty messed up deal if you want to know the truth. I'm pushing for disclosure in Washington. I'm working as hard as I can with a bunch of people to try to get something going here. And that's what I've been doing lately.
And so, what is your idea of disclosure like? Because for me, first of all, I think that I doubt that's going to happen. I guess the more I look into this, the more cynical I get. And, you look at some of the things that have happened with To the Stars Academy and things that are taking place now, and you look at the players involved, and you end up questioning their motivations. I mean, is this just another ploy to distract people?
Well, in the UFO world, you've got people fighting you every inch of the way on every single thing. Like, I don't even consider myself like a quote-unquote UFO person or whatever, but I knew I was in trouble when I went to Roswell in 2011, and I walked into the museum in there, and I had a stack of affidavits of military officers, and I was trying to talk to somebody in the somewhere in the Roswell UFO Museum of the thousands of people and all the people there, and I talked to a lot of them. But, in fact, I talked to most of them, the ones I wanted to talk to. And but I had some lady from the museum walk up to me, and she said, "You know what? We don't do this the way you're doing it around here. We just don't do this. Okay, this is not how we operate in Roswell." Well, to me, I didn't care how they operated. I was investigating all things, but I thought it was pretty amusing. I knew I was in trouble with all the regular people right out the gate on that deal.
And so, okay, so as far as like the disclosure stuff, I mean, what do you think about To the Stars Academy?
What do I want? I think there needs to be an investigation here because I really believe that UFOs are real, and even if they're not flown. That particular ship was flown by an alien. It could have been more like a drone, but somebody's operating it somewhere out there, even if it's a drone. So, it's a national security issue, and the problem is back in 73 and 74, because of that war in the Middle East, they had raised the nuclear threat level to what they call DEFCON 3, and that's like right before you get ready to launch. It's getting pretty close. I think you've only done that one time for a whole month back in October 1973 when I was at the base there passing by. That was the month it happened. The only time since then we've had it a couple times, but it was only been for a day or day here or day there, like 9/11. I think it might have been a DEFCON 3. I don't know, for a day or something, but anyway, the bottom line was Russia and the United States weren't getting along. They were getting ready to exchange nuclear missiles. So the question is, have we gotten rid of nuclear missiles? Have we gotten rid of the possibility of nuclear war? If these beings are interested in just nuclear stuff, it could be because they have interest in Earth for some reason. Maybe they live here, or whatever. Maybe they just don't want Earth destroyed. And it could be a repeat performance if we ever go to DEFCON 3 again, because that's exactly what was going on at that point in time.
And so, as far as the alien, I mean, the more I learn and research, the more I'm questioning the whole extraterrestrial hypothesis. I mean, I don't know. I don't think we know what it is.
I'm not questioning it myself. See, I don't question it. I understand why question it. But I don't question it because I was there, and I had a flying saucer take off from a stationary position in front of me and become a star in seconds. Now, to me, I don't question anything after that, okay? I just want to know what the hell's going on. That's all I want to know. And so I keep searching, and so I've got these connections, and I've made reports to, I was just on the Kevin Randall show, I think a day or so ago. I was telling Kevin that, yeah, because of this Utah thing, I actually tracked down NASA counterintelligence over here in Houston at the Johnson Space Center, hooked up with them, and made a report about the whole thing that happened up there in Utah. And they supposedly reviewed it, forwarded it on to the heads of NASA. So it was a big deal. That October 1973 UFO wave, which was considered one of the biggest UFO waves ever, happened during that nuclear possible exchange period.
Well, and in 73, I mean, that was an interesting year, too, because you had quite a few cattle mutilations and a lot of other things taking place in the country. And I want to say, I'm just looking at this letter from NICAP, because NICAP was investigating all of the flap that was taking place, correct?
NICAP was really into the October 1973 UFO wave. It was one of the main things that they worked on.
And so do you have any other information about what NICAP found during this time?
Well, there's the NICAP letter. You've probably seen that from the director of the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen that one?
Right. And it says it's dated October 25th, 1973. In reply to your letter received on October 23rd, the investigation of unidentified flying objects is not and never has been a matter that is within the investigative jurisdiction of the FBI. Therefore, I cannot comment. I regret that I am unable to be of assistance. Clarence M. Kelly.
What's he say? He regrets he's unable?
Mm-hmm.
He regrets he's unable to be of assistance.
Right.
The director of the FBI. Okay. Well, that letter was sent out within, it's either D-Day or within days of my signing, that letter. And I've got that letter. I've saved that letter. I took the letter to the FBI. First time I walked into the FBI, and they gave it this guy. He walked in there. You go in this little room, and he asked me what I was there for, and I said, well, I'm here, I'm investigating this UFO cover-up deal, and I know the FBI knows something about it, but, I was up in Utah, and I really think something was going on out there. I went into the story about it, and the guy cut me off, and he says, well, the FBI...
I want to hear that music, so I've got to cut you off right there. We'll talk about your trip to the FBI and much, much more when we get back. I'm Erica Lukes here with Kenneth Dudley. We're going to take our first break, so stick around. The best is yet to come.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified. UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Hello, KCOR listeners. Lorian Fenton here from the Fenton Files to tell you about UFOCon 2020 in San Francisco, February 20th through 23rd. A conference like no other, UFOCon is where experiencers are going to reveal new information and science and consciousness will collide. So get your tickets at UFOCon2020.com. That's UFOCon2020.com. Don't miss what will be the most talked about conference of the decade.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
In the shadows, a voice cries out. Evidence that you're not alone.
You said my name. What is your name?
Proof that the living and the dead coexist. Or do they? Every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, join writer, producer, and paranormal investigator Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio as he explores, interviews, and investigates evidence alongside some of the best in the paranormal community and beyond.
6 people killed.
Ghost Box Radio, Wednesday nights exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, because the dead don't sleep. Ghost Box Radio.
Immerse yourself in an epic journey through time where ancient mysteries unfold within a story of love and betrayal, as well as a battle of good versus evil in The Emissary Book 1. The reader's favorite gold medal award winner for Visionary Fiction 2019, the action and adventure of The Emissary continues in The Emerald Tablet, Book 2. The 2019's Bronze Medal Award winner, The Emissary and The Emerald Tablet by Tamara Veach and Rennie DeFazio are both available now on Amazon.com. Let your reading adventure begin.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Are you ready to go?
It's showtime!
Here we go, world.
You're listening to the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Broadcasting from the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Their base is so large it has to draw most of its power from the nearby nuclear fusion plant.
The future of radio is here and now.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to UFO Classified. Again, I'm so stoked to be here. I have missed hanging out with all of you on Friday nights. I love being here and getting in chat and seeing Doug and Echo and Northern UFOs, Susan, all of you, Gabe, Jeff. You really mean the world to me, and I tell you this all the time. I really, really mean it. I'm here for you because each and every one of you that listens to my show understands that there's something important, and you also have the intelligence to know that what a lot of people who hold conferences or, put on TV shows or, are investigative journalists, people like that, might not necessarily be telling us the truth. And all of you want the truth, and we're doing this together. It's been a long, strange trip, but I love it, and I really appreciate Tina Marie and KCOR. This station rocks. I'm proud to be here. I also want to just say that in the next hour, I'm going to bring Phil Leech on. I'm super excited about that. I haven't talked to Phil for a while. He's been on my show. We did a series of exposés on MUFON back in the day, and he's going to talk about one of the most incredible cases I've heard of that he investigated. This is a great case. And then we will talk a little bit about Skinwalker Ranch, some of the new things that are coming to light, and we'll take phone calls. So I look forward to that. Right now I'm here with Kenneth Dudley, who I met. We were down in Texas, and we met at the wonderful conference that Noe Torres puts on in Edinburgh. That was a great conference. And it was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, that was a great one. I met some great people there. What I do when I go to those conferences is I work the crowd, and I work the people that around the event, and I meet ex-military people there, ex-intelligence people there, Navy, Army, Air Force. I even meet active members of the intelligence community in the crowds, and of course the crowds don't even know they're there because they're listening to the speakers. But yeah, that was a great one. I met some great people down there.
Yeah, I love that conference, I just have a lot of respect for Noe, and I hope I get to go back down there again. We are going to be back down in Houston speaking, so hopefully we'll get to hook up and stuff, and I get to see you again. But when we're going to talk about you walking into the FBI, but you brought up a point about the intelligence community being interested in UFOs and attending conferences. And so when you met some of these people at the conferences, how did they identify themselves, and how did you know that they were in intelligence?
Well, I don't know for sure, okay? This is something we never know for sure, because normally somebody's not going to flash a badge on you unless they're an FBI agent or somebody there investigating something like that. And undercover people are not going to give themselves away to most people. But no, I was just questioning a girl about one of her sightings off on the side, and this guy walked up. He had real short hair, looked like a military cut, really good shape, looked like he was in the military. Might have been, might not have been, said he was. And we started talking about the Office of Special Investigation and about certain people that are investigating certain things. And he was, he basically said a lot of the people didn't know what they were talking about, and, he was there, he was trying to learn what was going on, and he wanted to question that girl, so I left. I left and left her with him. But no, I ran into another guy up at the O'Hara UFO conference, and he was an older guy. He was sitting in the little cafeteria right off of where you walk in and out of the room there where they're speaking. And he had his hat on, military hat, and he had his laptop open. And I just stopped and asked him. I said, "Are you going to the conference?" And he said no, and we got in a short conversation, and he had kind of a negative viewpoint on it, but I think he was there kind of keep an eye on what was going on. As soon as I got to talking with him, he got up and walked away. By the way, was that an ex-FBI agent sitting next to you down there in Edinburgh? Did that guy really work for the FBI?
Oh boy, was there somebody sitting next to me? There was,
yeah. Yeah, well, you know that good-looking guy that's sitting next to you, one of the speakers, got his table set up right next to you?
Oh, Nick Redfern?
Yeah, he's pretty tall guy.
Ben Hansen. It was Ben Hansen, yeah.
Ben Hansen, yeah. Did Ben Hansen ever work for the FBI or anything?
Not that I know of, but perhaps I'll have to get him on the show and grill him about that.
I don't know where. I mean, it's probably not. I just probably dreamed it up, but
maybe he did.
I don't know.
It's a mystery, but I mean, I will definitely say that I know that. I mean, we've seen government documents that have for decades that say that the intelligence community does keep a close eye on the UFO community, and I can see why, and I'm wondering, and I want to ask you this.
There's no question about that. There's no,
yeah.
You know John Alexander, Colonel John Alexander?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Colonel John Alexander's probably been keeping an eye on the UFO community for probably 30 or 40 years.
You know, I think everyone thinks that as well. I mean, obviously, given his background in non-lethal weapons and some of the things that he does, I'm sure he's keeping track of it. And I have to, ask you, I mean, do you think that the intelligence community is keeping track of our community because there are people in our community that are potentially dangerous, or do you think that maybe it's because they can catch spies I've heard stories that because people, are hanging out, UFO researchers are hanging out on the borders of Area 51, that they're the perfect people to talk to because they're talking about weapons testing or top secret, aircraft testing, all of these things. And so you assimilate yourself into the UFO community, you're gaining information that maybe a foreign government would want.
I'd say there's no question that you're being monitored, okay? And why I say that is because in high school, I did send off a letter to the Central Intelligence Agency and asked them how I could get in. And they wrote me back and told me to go into the military and, some classes to take and some different things and all that. But that was during the 70s, and I can remember during the 70s, all the student groups that were anti-war demonstrator groups that were protesting the war in Vietnam were all infiltrated by intelligence groups. And they were all being monitored and all that. So yes, UFO people, I would say there's a real good chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we saw that, especially with NICAP and the demise of NICAP at the hands of the intelligence agency. Do you think that MUFON was ever infiltrated by intelligence?
No question about it. I talked to a bunch of MUFON people during the MUFON Civil War, and they said, "Man, you got to really watch out over here at MUFON. We've got all kinds of people infiltrated in here, all kinds of people trying to do stuff." Of course, Bigelow, who I think is he tied in with the Skinwalker Ranch, Bigelow?
He was, yes. He was the owner for quite some time when they were testing non-lethal weapons, apparently.
Right. Is that back when they had NIDS, N-I-D-S?
There was NIDS and then BAS. So.
Yeah, and John Alexander was with Bigelow on that deal.
That's shocking. Just kidding. Yeah.
No, they know each other. They used to work together.
Yes, they did. They worked together a lot, which is quite interesting. When you look at the people that were working with NIDS and working at BAS, the higher ups. I mean, you look at their backgrounds and you wonder if they were truly looking for unidentified aerial phenomena, if they were trying to study that, why would they bring in certain people that they brought in, and why wouldn't they have any instrumentation there? That's been the biggest thing that we're kind of looking at now and going through reports and talking to people. They didn't have any equipment to collect data. I find that very curious.
Yeah, it's hard to, I'm not up in Utah, and so I can't do much up there. I'm down here in Houston, close to NASA, so all my focus is down here at NASA and down here at Houston, like at the FBI and Homeland Security and Sheila Jackson Lee's office. I went up there in downtown Houston 3 times. She's in the federal building in downtown Houston, way up on like the 9th or 10th floor. And I went down there and made an official report with her, a complaint, and got it documented that I was there and that I was there because I'm upset about the UFO cover-up. And I'm upset about the way the government's handling the whole situation, and because she sits on the Homeland Security Committee and sits on the NASA Committee, I would like her to talk to me and look into what's going on here, And they were real nice to me, and I got everything officially signed and documented and everything, and I was there. But it's just like everything else. It's like this guy. What's this guy that just had sex with all these young girls? It's all over the TV thing.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, the guy that hung himself. Anyway, the bottom line is some girl called the FBI like 5 years before all this went down and filed an official complaint, and nobody did anything. So that's what I'm saying. That's how crazy this world is and how everything's so messed up. It's almost impossible to get anything done.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk about the times that you have walked into the FBI. to try to get them to communicate?
Well, there was the first time, and to finish that up, I took that NICAP letter from the FBI in there, and as soon as the guy started saying, "Oh, we don't investigate this stuff," I handed him the letter, and I said, "I don't think so. I think the FBI is more involved in this situation than what you're saying." And he looked at the letter, he looked back at me, and that was the end of the conversation right there, the first time in. And as he was getting up and walking off, I said, "Now, I'm not going to have any guy in suits show up at my front door of my house, am I?" He said, "No, don't worry about it. He said, if you have any problems, just let us know." So I said, "Okay," and that was my first time in. Second time in, I think it was over the UFO Nuke press conference in 2011. I mean, it was in 10, but I debriefed Robert Salas in 2011 at Roswell about what happened there at his base with his men. When they shut the nuclear weapons missiles off. And so I went to Roswell and was talking to him in Roswell. And on the way back, I decided to go back to FBI headquarters. I took all the affidavits from the nuclear press conference of all the military officers, and I walked in there and I said, trying to be a smart ass, I said, "Houston, we got a problem." And I sat down there, but I had asked for a lady FBI agent. And let me tell you something. If you ever go to FBI headquarters anywhere, ask for a woman. Don't ask for a man, okay? Anyway, she sat down there, and I started talking to her, and 2 hours later, she wrote down everything I said for 2 straight hours, and we talked about the UFO Nuke press conference. We talked about the affidavits from each military officer. And we talked about a whole bunch of stuff for about 2 hours. She wrote it all down. She was listening and writing. And so that was my second time in. Third time in, I got hold of a file, a UFO file, I thought could be important. And I called up the FBI, got a lady, and I said, "I've got something I'd like to give to the FBI. It's a file, a UFO file." She said, "Put it on a disc, bring it down here." And so I put it on a disc. I took it down there, went through security, went up there, got the appointment to see the duty agent in the little room. Went in the little room and was going to give the disc to the duty agent. This is how the left hand, right hand doesn't know what's going on here. The duty agent I got right then, I tried to give her the disc. And she said, "No, I can't take the disc." I said, "Well, I just called down here and talked to the FBI agent." Of course, I didn't get her name. Mike threw up. And, of course, the thing is about these duty agents, FBI agents, you won't get their name. It's not like on TV where they flash a badge at you and they show, "Yeah, I'm FBI agent so-and-so," okay? When you go into FBI headquarters, they don't flash any badges on you. And they don't say their name. Their name is duty agent. So, anyway, they're in their little ivory tower up there. Anyway, they wouldn't take it, but the lady said, "Well, I've got an address you can send this to. It's up in Washington, at Washington FBI." And so I took it down, but I never sent it. The fifth time I went in there, I went in for for an email scam, and I turned the email scam over to the FBI. And I gave him my UFO business card and talked to him briefly. This next time I'm going to be going in for a Facebook porno deal. And I'm going to see what I can get done about that. And I'm going to talk to him about the UFOs again.
Do you think that they have a file on you?
Oh, no question. They got a file. Their file on me is so big. So I'll tell you why. I know. I went over to Ellington Airfield here and drove up to the guard shack. It's the nearest Air Force base here on the south side of Houston. And I said to this security guard, I'd like to talk to somebody in intelligence. You got anybody in Air Force intelligence up here at the air base? And he said, hang on a minute. Got on the phone, called somewhere. Said, yeah, hang on. Somebody's going to come down to talk to you. Pull out here in the visitor parking lot. Or somebody will be down in a minute. So here comes the Air Force guy from Ellington. And pulls up the guard shack, and he parks and walks over with the security guard. They're real nice, real friendly. He says, I'm Officer so-and-so, how can I help you? And I said, well, I'm doing an investigation into the Air Force, and I'd like to talk to somebody in the Air Force about my investigation. I said, I might have some information that might be even helpful for the Air Force. And he said, well, the guys, this is not necessarily true what he said. I think they were there. But he said, the guys aren't here today. This was Monday. Come back tomorrow, check in just like you did, and somebody will be here to talk to you. And he said, but, of course, they took my ID. They ran my ID. They took all the information down. And then he said, well, do you have a reference? Do you have any references? And I said, yeah, I got a reference. You call FBI Houston. I've been there 4 times. They know exactly what I'm doing. And so the next day I went back over there, checked in. Here comes the same guy down in a Air Force truck and pulls out and into the visitor parking lot with one of the security guards, parks about 20 to 30 feet back off my back side and gets out with an M16 and walks up to me and says, you need to leave the base immediately. They don't want to talk to you. So I said, no problem. And I got in my car and I drove away. So yes, it's all, they don't like people questioning them. They don't like people, see, that's what I do. I confront officials, senators, congressmen, police officers, military people, NASA people, you name it. I'm not scared to talk to anybody about this.
And so what senators and congressmen have you talked to?
I went to my Ron Paul, my congressman, and I went to Sheila Jackson Lee, which isn't my congressman, but sits on the NASA and intelligence committees up in Washington. And I'm going to be contacting them again. See, that's the problem. I stay after all these people. And so eventually I'll find out something or I'll make a connection or something will happen.
And so, was there any response from these people?
Only NASA.
And what was the response
Only
from NASA?
NASA took my UFO report of what happened up in Utah at Green River. The intelligence, they work out of the Office of Legislative Affairs. There's a subcommittee within that committee which handles witnesses and oversight, and that's where NASA counterintelligence works out of that office. And they took my report, Officer Green, and I got back with him. He said they reviewed it and they passed it on to the heads of NASA.
Very interesting. And I just want to say, too, that you were correct about Ben Hansen working for the FBI. So he did, and he was also on the show Fact or Faked. Fact or Faked. And I really like Ben. He's awesome, and that was fun.
Ben is a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Ben is a good guy. I don't have any problem with Ben.
No, absolutely. So that's interesting. What is your intention is to push for disclosure, right?
Yeah, I want to know what's going on because I witnessed an incursion event at a missile base, and to me that's a national security issue, and I want to know what's going on. And if they're peaceful, I have no problem. But here's where the problem is. If they were peaceful, I think we would have heard something a long time ago about it.
Well, if they weren't peaceful, we would have been blown off the planet a long time ago.
Yeah, but there's probably not a lot of them, and there's a whole lot of us, and they've probably been here for a long time, and they probably have capabilities we don't, but they probably wouldn't use them except a last resort, a survival resort. They might use them.
Well, you never know. I mean, all of this is so interesting, and I think, I admire the fact that you want to take action and know what was going on, especially if you saw something unusual over a missile base. I think that's great, and you're going to have to keep us posted on what happens with your contacting your senators and congressmen and the intelligence agencies. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, well, listen, you're never going to find out anything unless you ask the hard questions to the hard people.
Absolutely, and it does take a lot of work, and you do have to keep on top of it. And I absolutely agree with that. So what conference are you planning on going to next?
Right now, I'm going to try to hook up with my new congressman and talk to him about this issue. And Kevin Randall wants to maybe work with me on a couple issues, so I'll look at that. And then also, I'll probably be going to a bunch of other congressmen. That's probably what's going to be the big deal. I can hit probably 20 congressmen right here in Houston.
Well, good luck, and thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm Erica Lukes here with Kenneth Dudley. We're going to take our bigger break, and we will be back after that.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the second half of UFO Classified. I'm always happy to be here on Friday night with my friends and show supporters. You mean the world to me. This is a listener-supported show. I really, truly love being here on KCOR, and any support that you can give the show is fantastic. So thank you very much. I also want to say that in the past few months I have been really digging into Skinwalker Ranch and the myths that have been put out there and the players involved and some of their dirty dealings and some of the things that have taken place to the people that have lived on the periphery of the ranch where they have been affected, their health has been affected. Next week, for the first half an hour of my show, I actually have the granddaughter of a person that lived right on the border of the ranch who experienced a bright light, a blinding bright light, much like Chris Marks experienced, and he was so shocked and scared that he dove into a ditch. He later developed cancer, but interestingly enough, he lived in the area for decades, did not have a single UFO experience until 1997. So go chew on that one for a minute. But anyway, we've got a lot that will be coming out. We'll be talking about, and I will also be interviewing Chris Marks and Chris Bartell again because we've got more information. So this should be a good show next week. I am here now with my friend Phil Leech, who has done several shows with me and has a similar spirit to myself. He believes in doing the right thing. He believes in the phenomenon and doing good research, but also exposing the truth. And so, Phil, it's good to have you back on.
Hi, Erica. It's glad to be here. It's been a while.
I know it has been. It has been a while, but it sounds like we're both, kind of stirring up trouble, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, it's easy to do sometimes. So they make it so easy,
Well, and especially in this field, I think both you and I have dug deep enough to know that there are things taking place that most people who are looking at it, from above would have no clue about. And I think one of the big things that you and I have talked about over the past year is the fact that the data is the hot commodity. I have heard from several different sources that, people are different groups, different factions are trying to sweep up data. And I've also heard that MUFON is involved in some of the data collection process. And my concern about that, as we saw with the Elaine Douglas files, is the files will never be publicly available. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. I don't think that, I don't think they're going to, MUFON's not going to release files or case reports. They're going to give you what they need to give you. To believe anything different than that, you have to be crazy. My concern is with how kind of ufology went maybe for the past 14, 15 months or so. I think To the Stars Academy is directing the narrative with ufology. Everybody's sitting back waiting to see what they do. Rather than keep on doing what we're supposed to be doing and trying to solve this. They turned into the big kids on the block overnight, which just amazes me. I do know recently, he's talking about the databases and files. I do know that Chris Mellon contacted NICAP, CUFOS, and some of them organizations that have those databases, and he was wanting their databases, and he was basically turned down. Very shortly after that, Jan Harzan contacted those same organizations, asking if he could have the databases, and basically the same question. He was turned down by a couple, and CUFOS agreed that they could have digital copies, the way I understand it, okay? But MUFON was going to pay for that, starting around 20 grand. It could be up to 50 possibly. And I know this for a fact. Excuse me. This came from a very high source. This was already board approved, and this is basically a done deal. So yeah, they're gathering up these hard copy files. These 40, 50 years worth of work. I think it's going to the Stars Academy. It's my own personal opinion. I've got no dog in this fight. but when they're asking first and then somebody else asks, and somebody agrees to it, it kind of makes it look like it's going to the first person, somehow, right? That right. They've tried to figure out how to get their hands on it. So, for an organization that doesn't call themselves ufologists, I was told they hired a statistician a few months ago to look at databases. Well, hell, they ain't got no database that we know of. Maybe they have a military type database that they work with, but Why would they need that person unless they plan on getting a hold of these databases? And then what's the outcome of that? When they look at these things, what are they going to see? Percentages of some kind? Or are they going to have contact information of witnesses? I believe maybe the latter.
I do too. And we've got a question here in chat. Jeff wants to know if you think MUFON has been covertly infiltrated and taken over from the top during the past 10 years.
No, not really. I mean, it's not that difficult. What people don't understand is yes, MUFON has a database. And because of a year ago when I do a little hissy fit about some, things they wasn't doing quite right, they've put in measures, they've locked everything down on the most part to where each state can only see what they're working on. They can't look at other states' completed forms, and all the write-ups and stuff. So they've really narrowed everything down. Is it difficult to get? No. You can get a password or you can get the okay, or I guess you could pay enough money, you could probably get it. I don't think they need to be infiltrated. There's not a lot there. Believe it or not, people seem to think there is. There's not a lot there. Good cases are hard to come by. Very, very hard to come by. Yes, there's a lot of lights in the sky and a lot of credible witnesses. Don't get me wrong. Very credible individuals. Okay, I believe that they've seen something they didn't understand. There's still no data there. There's nothing to prove anything with there. Okay, so if they're going to look strictly at percentages and cases and all of this, you got to keep one thing in mind. MUFON trains its investigators, and don't get me wrong, a lot of these people are great people. They do a good job, okay? But everyone is trained somewhat differently in the end. I mean, it's what their belief system is added into it, how much training they've had, how much experience. All these things go into a report. If the guy's sick, if they're bored, if they don't care anymore. So what you end up with is that person's individual thoughts on that particular case, okay? So you could have a new person doing an important case and not much come out of it. So it's hard to gather data. It's hard to gather good data from that and say, and sit back and look at the president and say, okay, here's a hard fact data on UFOs. It's impossible to do.
Maybe they're not looking at the reports after the investigators have investigated them. Maybe they're looking at what's coming in to MUFON.
Well, that very well could be. I mean, if you're looking at them running black projects and, some new aircraft or new something like that, they would probably want to know what's being seen and where it's seen and how they can best hide from the public, some of their new aircraft or their new projects. And they use every bit of that to their advantage, blame it on UFOs and no one believes it's a new jet fighter, right? So, it's all a game. It's a huge game that's played on all different sides. Ufology is a very tiny place. I tell this to everyone I talk to. We all seem to think that everyone knows this and UFOs exist and all of these things. And to all of us, it's very important. Ain't none of my neighbors know nothing about it. I mean, you go tell them what's a UFO, they'll tell you. If you ask them what a UAP is or a UAV, they don't have a clue. They don't even know what the word MUFON means. Ufology is a very tiny place.
Yeah, that's probably good.
That could be, but it's not as prevalent. A lot of reports out there, it's never been reported. A lot of things have occurred, but ufology is a very tiny place. All of us take it so seriously. And there's just so much of the public doesn't have a clue even where to report a UFO or anything like that.
That is absolutely true. And it's been interesting because, you and I have kind of been on the same discovery path. I mean, it's like we got into this organization that we loved so much and we were so excited and did a lot of work for the executive director and for the organization and kind of experienced the same types of disappointment with all of this. And it's sad. I think to me now looking back at it, it's just it's a Ponzi scheme. It's a way to make money. It is also.
Well, they did make some changes. Now I'm gonna give them a little bit of credit.
That's good. Okay.
All of my complaints. It was about a year ago, I think. My complaints came out about them. Most of those individuals that I mentioned in my two letters are no longer with MUFON, including me. Okay, they fired me, but those people aren't with MUFON anymore. Now, it might have took them a little while to get rid of them for other reasons, okay? And they've made some changes. And I spoke with Jan a couple months ago on the phone. I think we had about a 45-minute conversation on the phone. Typical me and Jan conversation, okay? They made these changes. I hope that it works with what they did. They might need to tweak a few things to make it a little more successful, but they needed to make those changes. They need to get them people out of there. That was the problem, and was just directing things the wrong way, okay? And they did that. So a lot of that stuff I wrote, for all these naysayers, and these people that don't believe it, they didn't get rid of them. Me complaining helped make them move on down the road, okay? So it was worth what I had to go through with that.
Well, that's good. And I mean, like I've always said, there are some really incredible people that I respect in MUFON. And I believe that, the idea is, it's been corrupted for sure, but it could have been a great organization. And so now, to me, I look at it and just see with Jan Harzan wanting to sweep up all the databases, and then, it's all about the money, because that's where the money is. This is what people want. They want the data. And you see that with, different organizations, AFU. I mean, they're getting a lot of data. All these people, anonymous people on the internet are sweeping up UFO data. And my concern is that all of this work and research that people have put 50 plus years into is going to be swept up and then pushed into a black hole, much like what we've seen with the Elaine Douglas files.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think this would have happened 2 years ago. I think the atmosphere with ufology changed so much in the last year, and it really has. The case reports are down. A lot of people's left these organizations. A lot of people. They pick up some new ones, but that experience has went out the door. Okay. They don't have that group of individuals anymore like that. They do have, don't get me wrong, they have very talented individuals in each state. They try hard. They do a great job for what they're doing. But once it gets to the top, it means very little, okay? Very little, unless it has some type of value of some kind. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. It's a business. You have to run a business. You have to make money. You have to get money. You have to sell cases and TV shows and journals and in order to stay afloat. This is what you have to do. And it's a shame that certain individuals can control the narrative of ufology. Okay, that's why like radio shows like yours, you're allowed to say what you want, what you think. Okay, the truth when you find it out, where you don't get that from a lot of other places.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, I think to me, it's just, this whole thing has been so shocking. I just, when I joined MUFON, I was excited and I thought we were doing this for the benefit of mankind, humanity, and all these things. And I've learned so many lessons, and it's sad. And sometimes, you go to bed and you're so disappointed because there's something real and it deserves to be studied. And then you look at what organizations and different individuals have done to taint the field. And specifically, I think about Bigelow and the false narrative he's built up about Skinwalker Ranch, just to go in there and use a property to do clearly weapons testing and things like that. And you just wonder, when you look back at ufology as a whole, how many times has that happened before, where a community of people who are simply searching for the answers, where that community has been manipulated for ulterior motives?
I believe it happens all the time. I believe it still happens. That is a very good ploy. The false flag thing, I think that is a very common thing. I think governments in general do it all the time. In order to keep our enemies, at bay, you can pick the Tic Tac UFO event if you want. I'm not a big believer in that for some reason, many reasons, but I'm not a big believer in that. I believe it happened. I believe military people seen it. There's just some red flags there that some things just doesn't make any sense. You have unknown objects approaching a task force at sea. They didn't act right. I mean, if I was the guy in charge of that entire task force and I had unknown objects that could be Russian, Chinese, right? I believe I'd have been at full battle stations, launched every plane I got, because we don't know what these things are. They didn't do these things. It's like they knew what these was. I don't know. I don't buy into that. But this could be another false flag. These things can be black projects that the government has that we want other nations to believe we might have that capability, and that keeps them in check to some point. And I think a lot of this is happening in ufology. I do believe a lot of these cases are real. I believe, UFOs exist. A lot of people have experienced some terrifying things, but a good percentage of them has been orchestrated to get what they want.
You know what? The more I learn and the more I sit back and look at things, the more I absolutely agree with that. And I mean, when I first publicly got into this, I never would have thought that. And I've just had so many slaps to the face time and time again. And it's like, wow. And, just recently with the Skinwalker Ranch things, the people that I held out faith for, that I believed in, certain investigative journalists and things, and now I know are complete frauds. And it is sad. We deserve better than that. And
the Skinwalker Ranch is probably one of the biggest false flags that I've heard about. I mean, that went on for a long, long time. Mr. Bigelow is very good about getting his way, has enough financing to do what he wants and make things a little bit unusual anytime he feels like it, and still run the operations that they're actually doing. So that's not surprising to me. I think he has his hands in a lot of things still that who knows what he's up to. But how long did they play the Bigelow or the Skinwalker Ranch thing out? It was a long time. Had a lot of people believing in that, a lot of people writing books and articles, and then you sit back and wonder, he had to be laughing. It was working a little too perfect.
Well, and that's the thing. There's no doubt. There have been really interesting stories. Frank Salisbury, Dr. Frank Salisbury, Junior Hicks, they've been documenting unusual events in the Uinta Basin for decades, a lot longer than when Bigelow came in. But I really, truly think that Bigelow saw that, and he said, aha, this is a perfect place to buy property that is next to a Native American reservation. Awesome. And then we can, build on this myth and then go in there and do all sorts of testing. And, what a perfect cover. It is the most brilliant marketing strategy I have ever seen. And then you get, people that even though they're getting sick or they're having these experiences, it's like, it wasn't actually something that somebody could be held accountable for. It was actually a UFO. So nobody's going to look any further.
Anytime you get into these type of operations, it's everything's in a compartment, in a little box. So this guy over here working at the guard shack might only know this much information that's actually, what he knows. And then another guy working over here might know something different, but none of them know the whole story. Keep your eyes straight, don't look left or right type things. So these stories and these untruths can just go on and on and on for years.
And, I think the one thing that is truly heartbreaking is that we, as a community, since we want to know more and we deserve to know more, we've had experiences, all of us. I think we get into this because we've had unusual experiences, but we, get into this community and then we look to these people who are supposed to be, the leaders and they're, they come under this guise that they're pushing boundaries, and guess what? UFOs are right under our noses and, building up this BS. It's just, the more I learn the more it infuriates me, and especially when
does.
you've got
I agree.
military people that are serving our country that have, that are putting their lives on the line, and they're getting sent out there and they're not told what is happening, I have to say that at the end of the day, Robert Bigelow, George Knapp, Colm Kelleher, Eric Davis, look at yourself in the mirror and you tell me how you're going to feel, especially when you meet your maker.
I think the one thing you can take out of all this, okay, is that you hung in there, okay? You believed it. You followed them facts, those trails, until you got to this point here. And if it wasn't for your journalism and keeping up on all of this probably wouldn't be quite out there like it is right now. Probably the one person that's a thorn in their foot. So,
well, if it's not MUFON, it's the Bigelow Empire. I think for me, and you're very much the same as I am. It's like you see people that are being taken advantage of, and you see things that aren't right, and you can't sit back and just say, okay, that's great. We have to, and especially in this field, we have to question everything.
You cannot. The one thing about ufology, I want to, even your listeners, everyone, listen. Your desire to believe in UFOs is understandable, okay? But do not let it fog your vision, because it's so easy for your beliefs to be talking to someone else who believes in the same thing, for you to just absorb everything they're saying, okay? And you believe now what they believe, and they believe what you believe. To get a good researcher, a good investigator, and this is how I train my people, is you don't put your beliefs into this. This is their story. Let them facts come out, okay? Because if you don't believe in orbs and you're talking to someone who's seen an orb, chance of you saying that's an orb and an unknown is unlikely, okay? So
absolutely, and I hear that music, and we're going to continue that.
There we go.
So awesome to have you on the show tonight. I love it. I'm Erica Lukes here with Phil Leech. We're going to take our last break. We will be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this. Bowl for Life is a non-profit organization founded in 2013 by Chuck Gardner with one simple goal: to grow the sport of bowling worldwide. Over the years, Bowl for Life has given out thousands of dollars in scholarships to youth bowlers around the world. Our focus is to nurture integrity, honesty, professionalism, as well as respect into bowlers both young and old. You can help us by going to bowlforlife.com. Even the smallest donation goes a long way to breaking down the barriers and helping us assist people of all ages to improve their skills as well as knowledge of the game. Bowl for Life is happy to be partnered with other great organizations like the Youth Education Services Fund, as well as the United States Bowling Congress, with many spectacular integrated events planned in the near future. To learn more, go to bowlforlife.com. That's bowlforlife.com.
Vegas, baby! Vegas' #1 source for talk and new music.
How cool is that?
There is a world outside that which we live in, a realm where fact and fiction collide. The Paradigm Matrix.
The Paradigm Matrix.
Hosted by Willie Miranda, every Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us, even now in this very moment.
The 1-hour show that will surely leave you hanging on the edge of the rabbit hole.
The Paradigm Matrix
explores a universe of topics from UFOs, cryptozoology, conspiracies, as well as all things paranormal.
Enter a world of the twisted and deformed.
Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The Paradigm Matrix, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, where fact and fiction collide.
All right, everybody in the car, let's go.
What are we gonna do first when we get there, Mom? Go for a hike?
Sure.
What about canoeing? Can we go canoeing too?
I don't see why.
How long does it take to get to the forest?
It's not that far, sweetie.
Are we there yet?
Yep, we're here.
Already?
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to UFO Classified. We are a listener-supported show, and so if you are kind enough to support the show, you can go to UFOclassified.com. You can visit KCOR to donate to the show, and you can find my Patreon account. I appreciate that. I really believe in what I do, and I spend a lot of time researching this because I believe that we deserve the truth and we're not getting it, and there are lots of games at hand, and I really think that right now especially we need to be very cognizant of some of the players that have infiltrated ufology, that are pretending like they're the saviors, TTSA, we could go on and on and on about that, but we need to be very careful about all of these things. I also want to say, when you get into Facebook or social media chat rooms or engage in some of these things, that who knows who you're talking to, so be a little careful about that. I've learned that one the hard way. I want to thank all of the people that support the show, that listen. Northern UFOs, you rock. I appreciate your support getting everything out on YouTube. If each of you could take a show and share it on your social media, that would be wonderful. We need to get the word out because, in my opinion, this is the only show out there that is actually trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. So on that note, I'm here with Phil Leech, who has been on my show before. We've had some very provocative shows, and we've talked about MUFON and some of the dysfunction that has taken place. Phil is an incredible investigator. He did one of the best cases that I've ever seen, but we're going to get back to, and I'll have him on again and again because I love having him here. But we were talking a little bit about the way that this subject has been manipulated. And Phil, I mean, you seem as incensed as I am about all of this.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. I mean, I've spoke with so many, I'm not kidding, so many people that can see past all of this. When To the Stars Academy came around, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, something like that, me and Jan Harzan had a conversation about that. I told him, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's a dangerous thing to do. And he did exactly that. I think he can give Luis Alessandro Ufologist of the Year award at one of those symposiums. So, which boggled my mind. But regardless, they come out of nowhere. I got this saying: once a cop, always a cop. Once a fireman, always a fireman. Once a spy, always a spy. Now, unless I'm mistaken, these people are all government individuals. Come out of, Department of Defense and worked on black projects and investigated UFOs secretly for 10 years. So for them to come out right now and for anyone to think that they're going to tell you the truth, they're going to tell you what they need to tell you to get what they need. And they're doing a very good job at it. To me, ufology got stunted for the last year in a big way. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. There's a lot of people that think that. The only ones who don't think that would be the ones that could benefit financially from it in some way. They might know it, but they don't care. Okay? I think this whole thing has been extremely orchestrated. It's depressing. It really is. How can any organization, CUFOS, NICAP, not that Fran will, but even MUFON, been around 40, 50 years, like MUFON. You don't give away 50 years worth of investigative work, for somebody to just call you up on the phone, I watched even on TV, France give to the Stars Academy, a database. Why on earth just hand that over? Really?
Right. Right.
It just doesn't make any sense, And what is the end game with all of this? Here's my fear. I do believe it could go one of two ways. They can come out and say, hey, 3 to 5% of these UFOs are unknown, which is realistic, okay? And there is something to this. Or, on the other hand, they could come out and say, this, and this were government projects or experimental airplanes and things like this. They could literally ruin ufology if they wanted to. They're going to have people coming out debunking good cases that's been studied for 15 freaking years. Right. So things like this. So they're kind of narrating this whole thing this whole year. It is a scary situation. I'm not the only person that believes that. I might be one of the fools that say it, okay? But I've talked to many, many people that believe the exact same thing, and it is depressing, to me at least.
And I mean, I fully believe, and I've talked about this on many, many shows, that they are sweeping up all the data, and they're putting it in locations where people like us will never have access to that, and they're rewriting the history of the subject. And you look at To the Stars Academy, it's like it's all about the threat. Oh, why would that be? So you can get funding. I mean, it's like, give me a break. And so I mean, it's just it is really very concerning to me. And you look at To the Stars Academy at their website, and they're talking about, they announce CRADA with the U.S. Army Combat Capabilities Development to advance material and technology innovation. And, they're talking about cloaking technology, all of these things. What does that have to do with UFO research? Nothing.
Better yet, why do they need To the Stars Academy? Now, unless I'm a dumbass, the U.S. government doesn't need anybody.
Right.
Okay? They have their own people. They got Black Project people and Department of Defense people and scientists. And trust me, they have these people. I've met some. What the hell they need these guys for? So they can be a front person to go around and get all the databases? That would be one of the only reasons.
Right. And, we've talked about databases, but obviously Jan Harzan and MUFON, they're trying to get in the game because that's where we know the money is the databases. And so, and then you've got also, there's an organization in Monaco, FREM, that is the Foyle Institute of Monaco, that Research Institute of Monaco, and they're trying to sweep up the data as well. And you've got all of these players, and when you look at their backgrounds, I mean, they're all the same people in each of these organizations all over the world.
Yeah.
What are they doing, and why are they sweeping up the data? They're certainly not making anything available to the public. They're certainly not giving anybody answers, but they certainly have a lot of money to personally make from engaging in the activities that they're engaging in.
Anytime you can get data about any subject, it helps you military-wise, government-wise. It helps. If you understand the belief system, if you understand what data is actually real and how much of it is just all bullshit, okay, they can use that to their advantage in any way they want to. I do hope that they come out and they have a little bit more than that little bit of footage they showed, that by the way, was on CNN, which is great, but it was a one-day thing. No one gave a shit the next day, okay? no one cared. So here and there it was on CNN and maybe Fox. I don't watch Fox, but some of these others, that was there. And it was a one-day story. I mean, this group come out and said UFOs exist. Well, CNN only cared for one day, and the American public cared for less than that.
Well, and then and then then you watch what has happened with the Nimitz and the fact that you've got one person that was on the Nimitz that is coming out, and then they're fighting with the other people that are trying to come forward about it, and it's just like, huh? I mean, the whole thing is so squirrely. And
I think something happened. Okay, I have no problem. Something did occur. They seen something on radar. The pilots probably seen something. I believe all of this happened. The only question you have to ask yourself is it ET doing this, or was this a government black project that was pushing a task force limits to see how they'd react to it? Do I think that they could make plasma-type drones that's unmanned? They're pretty good at what they do now, okay? I don't find it impossible for them to do something exactly like that with what I know with some of the projects that's been worked on. So to me, that's why I don't buy into it so much, that this is ET. That would be a huge national security problem, I would think. But anyway.
Well, and I absolutely agree. I mean, and you look at, we're saying this is a UFO event and an incursion and all of these things, and then we also, got some of the things that took place at Skinwalker Ranch, where you've got shape-shifting entities and all of these things. But when you step back and you look at it, you can say, oh, this is technology that we've actually developed, that the U.S. and Israel and different countries have developed. And so, is this really ET? Is this, what are we doing? Is this big psyops? I mean, the whole thing it just stinks to high hell. And I think it's like I said, it's unfortunate because there is something real and important. And the more people pull this kind of crap, the less the more it takes power away from the person who has had an incredible experience. And that is, in and of itself, really sad.
When Two Stars first came out, they was, donation, send us donation, or buy stock, basically, is what it was in the company. A friend of mine did. He bought the least amount of stock you could buy. And I was watching, because you could see how much they had at first. They went from thousands upon thousands of dollars to, $2 million in a matter of no time. Well, where'd that $2 million come from? That's a lot of money. And that jumped them up in the world. That made them relevant. Okay. And that's where all these smaller organizations in the way of finances had to sit back and pay attention to them, because there's big kids on the block at the time. And they remain that way. I hope I'm wrong. I hope all of us, I've spoken with many, many people, I hope we're all wrong. I hope I'm completely way off base. They come out and prove something that's worthwhile. My own personal opinion is, after doing this for a while, if you don't throw a damn net over ET, drag his ass to the White House and show him to the president, okay, you're still not going to be able to prove UFOs exist.
Right.
We could have one land in my backyard, put imprints in the ground, burn the grass, some weird chemical in the grass. We could all do an investigation, take that to Congress, and they'd look at you and go, it still doesn't mean ET exists. It could have been a Chinese secret project, right? I mean, they could blame it off on anything. So it's a very hard subject to prove. I think it's getting harder and harder. I think it's a needle in a haystack now,
right?
Almost. Just to prove it, okay? I hope we prove it someday. Somebody's got to ET's got to make a mistake somewhere.
Well, I mean, and like I say, I always talk about Norway. I mean, they've actually done good research that has nothing to do with this nonsense that America seems to promote. I mean, this is I really feel if you step back and you look at the history of the subject in America, there's a big story there. And I look at my library and I go back from 47 on and look at the way political and religious factions have manipulated the subject and tainted it and inserted, delusional thoughts here and there. And, this is a great project for somebody to seed ideas, to see how they spread. It's just like, wow. And
I'm reading one of your listeners, Jeff. He put on there he'd like to see statistics on the number of UFO reports MUFON's received since To the Stars Academy started. Let me answer his question a little bit. It doesn't matter. The reports are down. I can tell you that the way it looks, the reports are down. They'll tell you different, but the reports are down some. The end result with these reports is there's not much you can use from those. They're going to tell you a percentage of unknowns, UAVs, hoaxes, identifiable type things that occurred. The problem is that right now, and even a year ago, there's probably 11, 12 states that MUFON doesn't even have anybody in. A lot of these reports are closed. All your overseas reports, things are closed pretty quickly on the most part, without any investigation whatsoever. It's based upon how the investigator wants to close the case. So to use those statistics and say, 25% were unknowns, we don't know what those are, that's not a good statistic at all, okay? Because these cases was closed the way they was. You can't use any of these statistics, period, that they have for years. You can't do it. They'll argue with you all day long. I know better. I went through these reports. I know how they're closed. I know the processes that they do. It's big numbers for to get big money from donors to stay in business. You cannot go to a donor. Jan Hars actually told me this one time, because I was talking to him about this. I said there's like 3 to 5% that's really unknowns. Okay, the rest of them are identifiable or hoaxes, or there's just nothing to them. He didn't like those numbers. He needed bigger numbers. He said, I can't. He actually told me this. He probably won't remember. He'll be mad. But he said, listen, I can't go to donors and say only 3% are unknowns. I need numbers like 25% are unknowns. So, and I understand that. That's business.
Right.
That's how you do business.
Right.
Okay. But the actual true fact is probably 3 to 5% of any agency out there are actually unknowns that we just can't identify what they are, or we don't have enough data to figure out what's going on. So to ask for, are reports down? Yeah, they're down some for the last year across the board. But the statistics mean absolutely nothing.
Absolutely, and I think that that's a great point, especially when you look at the quality of investigations. I mean, we've got how many investigators that in their education, their skill level is so, it's not congruent, and so you've got somebody and they insert their belief systems in there, and so when you look at these reports, let's talk about that unusual case.
I was trying to tell you I had an unusual case, and I'm going to tell you this most delicate way I can, okay? A current MUFON investigator called me maybe, 6 months ago, 5 months ago, and I speak to a lot of people in MUFON, across the United States, but he called and wanted to go over a case. Witness was complaining that the reptilians would not leave him alone. They would bother him all night long. He would go to the doctor, go through an MRI. They would be there with him in the MRI. And most delicately here, he liked sleeping on his stomach, and the reptilians liked his backside. Okay? And that's how I'm going to put it.
Oh.
So I'm listening to this story thinking, well, this person's crazier than batshit. Okay? So I said, well, what'd you tell him? And he said, I did some research, and I got on the internet, on Google or YouTube, and he goes, I come up with a solution. Now, this is a MUFON field investigator.
Oh, dear.
Seasoned field investigator.
Oh, boy.
I said, what'd you tell him? He said, I sent him to the hardware store. I said, uh-huh. I said, what'd you do? I said, he said, well, I had him get 4 things. I said, what was that? And he said, duct tape, a piece of sheet metal, a big old rod, and some wire. I said, okay. He had this guy put a piece of sheet metal on his ass, duct taped the metal down to his ass. He took this rod and shoved it through the floor of his house into the ground, hooked the wire to the rod and hooked the wire to the box springs of the bed, and it seems that it worked because the reptilians are now leaving him alone.
Oh my God, I need to go bathe in holy water. Are you kidding me?
That's the honest to God truth, I swear to God. It's the funniest shit I ever heard in my entire life from being in ufology. I mean, I've heard some crazy things, but normally it's from the witnesses, okay? But this is why I tell you those stats and those percentages don't mean a damn thing.
Exactly.
Okay?
That is proof. Yeah, pretty much don't. Ooh, wow.
I can't buy duct tape ever again. I can tell you that right now.
Duct tape is not on my agenda, that's for sure. I mean, I have to
I'm sorry.
I have to sit back and just process this. It's like,
I had to take Advil when I got off the phone. I was like, oh my God.
Taking Vicodin or something. That's, I mean, wow. Did he put that in the report?
I told him not to. He did put some, the way I understand, a little bit, but I told him he probably ought not be putting that on paper like that.
Probably not.
Because, but all I learned from it is that clearly when you get the MUFON jump bag to go on case investigations, you need to buy some different equipment.
Duct tape. Metal sheets. Yeah,
Okay,
wow.
I apologize. We got off topic a little bit there. I just yeah.
No,
anyway,
laugh was, you're highlighting the craziness in this field. It's like it's sad because there are people like that clearly aren't in touch with reality, and
there is. I mean, you don't get me wrong. MUFON has a bunch of great people. I'll be honest with you. I will tell a new person who wants to get into ufology to join MUFON, believe it or not. And I've done that. Yes, I've done that. And I'll tell you why. If you stay at a state level, okay, and you're not a state director, you're okay. You don't realize what really goes on. I didn't start realizing until I was well into chief investigator and then become state director of Indiana. Then I started figuring out some things. But if you're just investigating cases and you're trying to do a good job, those people are fine. As long as they stay out of the political side of things. You have to have investigators to look at these cases, so you got to start somewhere, okay? So yes, as much as problems I had with MUFON, I still tell people if they want to investigate cases, that's where they need to go.
Right.
If they want to learn how to do this, you need
it is interesting. I want to just bring up, because we've got 2 minutes before we go off the air, but there are some states, though, that have used MUFON as a way to make a lot of money and not pay taxes.
Oh, yes. That's little separate franchises. They got plenty of that going on. Yes. I always wondered when I was in Indiana, we had symposium, we say, hey, I want to use MUFON's tax ID number. Well, I was told you got to go get your own. I have to have an Indiana MUFON tax ID number. Well, what the hell for? Why can't I use theirs? That's who I'm working for.
And the funny thing is some of the biggest revenue generating places or states are not paying taxes.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they have, once they get the nonprofit state tax ID number stuff,
or do they have it? I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah, some of them don't. I've looked into that. But it is, the whole thing is so interesting, but I feel like I've missed having you on the show. I will say, you need to come on once a month because you make me laugh. You have great ideas, and
I'm glad I could help you out here tonight, and maybe next time we can get to this barbell case.
Yeah,
that's a really interesting case.
Yeah, and let's if you can give me the YouTube, because you've got the video out there about the barbell case that you investigated, right?
Yeah, all you got to do is go to YouTube and look for actually MUFON case 74282. It's I forget 45-minute long interview I do with the witness. That was all done in one take. You know, we added out a few words and names that we didn't want to lead back to the witness because he's a Department of Defense scientist that works on black projects. So, and he still does that. You know, his identity's been kept. There's only 2 of us know who he is. So it's a very interesting case. You know, your listeners should go look. You know, listen to that interview. There's a lot there.
There is. It's an exceptional case. You did a great job.
It's one of the few cases that has evidence. So next, you know, if we get to talk about it, you know, the evidence. There's a little evidence that comes along with that.
Yeah. No, we will. I will have you back on. Thank you so much for being here, and I want to just thank everybody for listening and asking great questions and participating. Next week is going to be a great show. I will have the granddaughter of Charles Wynn, who lived right next to Skinwalker Ranch, on the show, and I will also have Chris Bartell and Chris Marks on the show. We've uncovered new evidence that is shining a very serious light on all of the narrative that we've been fed about Skinwalker Ranch and some of the activities that have taken place there. Trust me, it is not what it seems, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. Thanks for listening. Have a great night. Stick around for Willie Miranda.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south